Welcome to Midweek Midrange. We are a little late today. We apologize for that. Only by 6 minutes, though. It's fine. I'm never on this show. I am Kev. I am on the Korner Booth podcast. And familiar face Jamaal is here to talk some Rockets trade, some March Madness, and anything else that comes up. Jamaal, how you doing?
Doing all right. It's very beautiful Wednesday here in Colorado, so just enjoying the weather a little bit.
Didn't y'all get like 4 feet of snow last week?
That's the thing. It melts quickly around here. Like as soon as it lands, it's going in the next couple of days.
Oh, that sounds nice. In Massachusetts, it just sits there for weeks on end.
Mm-hmm.
But we can get into it. For those who didn't see it today, Houston traded P.J. Walker, Rodions Kirks, and the Bucks 2022 first-round pick back to Milwaukee for DJ Augustine, DJ Wilson, a 2023 unprotected first-round pick, and Houston gets the right to swap its 2021 second-rounder for Milwaukee's first-round pick unless it falls between 1 and 9. Jamaal, what are your thoughts on this trade?
So when I first saw that the notification went off for it, I immediately thought, well, this is really going to help Milwaukee because what it does, it hopefully spreads the floor more for Giannis because PJ Tucker, he'll give you shooting, but he'll give you that veteran toughness that sometimes you'll need come playoff time. So I was kind of surprised at the move, and I'm surprised that Milwaukee was part of the deal, but it makes sense for them in the long run. Whether it helps them against Philadelphia and Brooklyn remains to be seen. But I think this was a good pickup for the Bucks.
True, and the Rockets are just in a weird place where they don't really have any great young players outside of Christian Wood, and they're just trying to shed salary, I guess. I thought it was really weird to see a second for a first pick swap. I feel like that's never something that happens in the NBA or any sport.
I mean, well, it depends on what your team is looking for. Because as you said, Houston's really not. They're of course they're not going to continue this year. We don't even know what's going to be the roster next year. So right now they're just trying to do whatever they can to save face and really trying to build something to maybe attract maybe more free agents or just try to make something up because we already know this season is a loss for them because they're near the bottom of the West.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone expected differently. Once they traded Harden, everyone kind of figured this is how the season would look for them. I'm shocked that the Timberwolves are even worse than them at this point.
I'm not. It's the Timberwolves.
That's fair. I just looking at some of the players the Timberwolves have, though. I mean, Cat, you have D'Lo, Anthony Edwards. I mean, how are the Timberwolves so bad? I didn't expect them to push for the playoffs, but being worse than this Rockets team after going 0-17 without Christian Wood is still mind-blowing to me that an organization can be that bad.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is when you don't really have a structure or a plan as far as the whole organization goes, you're gonna have stuff like that. And so both Houston and Minnesota were really gonna have to figure out what kind of teams do they want to be going forward because the season's already lost there. Now you're just trying to save face and really just trying to see what young talent you do have. And if you do have future assets, you might as well get rid of them now and see what you can get for them.
I do expect Houston, though, to bounce back quickly. I mean, it's Houston. It's a fun city to live in. It's a warm climate. People want to play there more than they do in the middle of the Arctic Circle. But, I mean, I don't know. March Madness coming, though. Do you see any players in March Madness that you think will be on one of these teams next year? I mean, that's a dumb question. There's 64 teams, but...
Well, no, there's a bunch of great players that I see in college right now. I know the one guy that I see playing for Oklahoma State, Cade Cunningham. That man has game. I've seen him play a couple of times, especially in the Big 12 tournament. I really do think he could be one of the next few pieces that one of these lottery teams that don't. As a matter of fact, don't be surprised come draft night if you see a couple of teams trade up to try to go get him because I think he might be the first player in the draft come this summer.
Yeah, I mean, also just off the court stuff. Once Oklahoma State got that postseason ban and his decision to stay also just says a lot about his character, which teams are looking for now. They're looking for good character guys.
Yes, because that's really what's been really lacking in not just the NBA, but college as well. So I think Cunningham has really done himself a favor by doing that.
Yeah. Speaking of March, did you fill out a bracket this year or multiple brackets?
Of course, I actually got 3 that's right by my desk right now. So I have not been able to fill them out at this point, but I do have a couple of sleeper picks or whatever. So on one bracket, I have Michigan winning it all. Another, I have Baylor, and my last one, I actually have. I'm actually gonna give like a kind of off the wall pick, but I look at Arkansas. Because I've seen them play a couple of games. They could surprise some people. You never know.
I do not like Arkansas. Their coach blocked me on Twitter.
Really?
Yeah. So, for those who don't know, I went to the University of Alabama. Gump Twitter is a thing, all Alabama fans, and he blocked a bunch of people. So everyone on Gump Twitter started going at him, and I tweeted at him twice, I think, and he blocked me immediately. So
it must have been some colorful language or something for that.
I didn't say anything that bad. I think I might have brought up his height. I think that is something I did.
That did it right there. That did it.
I mean, I'm not tall either. I'm 5'7", but if you can't take a height joke, come on. I don't think you have the mental fortitude to win March Madness as a coach.
I mean, maybe, but who knows? That actually gave my laugh of the day.
But I only did one bracket because my friend asked me if I want to do a bracket challenge on ESPN. Because I am an unbiased journalist, I know what I'm talking. I have Alabama winning it all.
Whoa. Okay.
Over West Virginia.
I mean, hey, I've seen strange things happen, so it's not completely off the wall as people may think. Because, as you know, not too long ago, UConn, I think, was the lowest seed ever to win the national title. I think they were a 7th seed. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I mean, I like Alabama's players. I love Nate Oates. I think he's a great coach. And I love the leadership they have with John Petty, Alex Reese, and Herb Jones, 3 guys who stayed in state to play for a not very good program historically. But
who would have thought? We're talking about Alabama and Arkansas from the SEC and not Kentucky of all teams. Think about that for a minute.
I love it. I'm going to be honest. With basketball, I like it when the blue bloods aren't doing that well. I like it when kind of the smaller programs or the ones that historically aren't basketball schools get a chance to make a run or something. And that's what we're getting out of the Tide and Razorbacks right now.
That is very true. I mean, it's not just Kentucky, but Duke as well. It's been 45 years since both of those programs have not been in the tournament. 45 years. It's insane to think about.
That I don't even know how to react to that. I've seen that stat before, and I just kind of always gloss over it, but that's insane.
Well, it just goes to show in year 2020 or 2021, you just do not know what to expect, and that just happened to be one of them.
That's true. I still don't think this year counts a lot.
You don't think so?
It's still kind of a weird year.
I guess that's fair. I mean, because you also got to think about, well, for most of these teams, like the home crowd, they don't even have that. A lot of these teams don't have that. Travel has really been hit or miss. Of course, COVID has basically been running roughshod through all sports, especially college basketball. But I think hopefully when things eventually start to clear up, I think we'll see more of the normal patterns that you do see. Of course, your Kentuckys or Dukes are back in. The normal teams that you see throughout sports will really start to find their footing again. It's been a strange year, but it's just what we have to expect.
Watch this somehow just be the end of some of these programs' runs of dominance. I don't think it will happen, but I do think that would be kind of funny.
Pick one. You actually got my attention with that one.
One that I want to be done or one that I think will be done?
Either or.
I have an answer for both. I don't like Duke. I don't really like Coach K. Him and Nate Oates went at it a bit because Duke earlier in the year said, we have to be able to play. We have to play an out-of-conference schedule. And then once they started losing, like, we shouldn't be playing an out-of-conference schedule.
So how quickly the tables have turned.
But I think Kentucky might be not done. They're still going to make runs there, but they're not going to be as dominant. The SEC is getting better. I mean, you had Auburn in the Elite Eight last year. Tennessee's coming up. Alabama and Arkansas, like we said. And Kentucky has not been recruiting as well every year. It felt in the past they had the number one pick or the one of the top three picks, and they're not as dominant. So I think they might be on the downtrend. I also
that is true. But there's a couple of good teams in the SEC. The teams we mentioned, Arkansas, Alabama. I can't misplace Florida either. They're still always in the running. Tennessee as well. So I think Kentucky better be very careful from here on out as far as recruiting goes. I mean, the one thing I will give Kentucky the edge over all those other programs, they don't have John Calipari. So
that's true. I saw a really interesting take on Twitter, though. Not that I put a lot of stock in what people say on Twitter, but it was a question raised of if John Calipari is a good coach at this point, or if he can just recruit well.
It's a little bit of both. I've seen we've all seen the recruits that he's had over the years. Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, the Harrison twins. There's a lot of other names. Willie Cauley-Stein. There's a lot of great names that he's brought in over the years. And yeah, for most of those teams that he's brought in, he's actually made some pretty deep runs in the tournaments. So it's not like it's just always been a stroke of luck or he's just always been great at recruiting. He's a pretty good coach because he's got a couple of national titles to his name or whatever. And it's not just at Kentucky. He's done it at Memphis and he's done it at UMass as well.
I always forget he coached at UMass, and it's just weird to think about.
That star player of that team, Marcus Camby.
It's true. I completely forgot Calipari coached there. I don't know why, but no,
it was a long, long time ago.
That's true, but also UMass doesn't really do much in terms of athletics, so I probably should have known that the school, like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from me, had one of the greatest college basketball coaches ever at it.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, that's a fair point.
But staying on March Madness, what's the lowest seed you have making a semi-run? I'm always curious about this with people. Like, what team maybe didn't perform well, but people think might go pretty deep?
Pay close attention to this team that I'm about to say right now. Michigan State. I say Michigan State because Tom Izzo, come March and April, he will have his boys ready to play. So do not anticipate they'll just be a 1 or 2 game and then done. I think if Tom Izzo gets those guys going at the right time, I think they can cause some mayhem.
I feel like people, myself included, always kind of forget about George Izzo when they think of the really good or great college basketball coaches. Tom Izzo's always just left off the list unfairly. He's a very good coach, but I don't know why. He's just one of those guys.
Well, I mean, I think part of the reason why is because he plays in a loaded conference. The Big Ten, I think, probably is the best basketball conference this year. And the fact that the last Big Ten national title came from Michigan State in 2000. So who knows? This might be the year that they break through again because you got Michigan, you got Illinois. There's a boatload of Big Ten teams that could really make a run to get to the Final Four in Indianapolis.
It's true. I have a team to watch that I don't think enough people are talking about. The Georgetown Hoyas.
Oh man, do I have some good things to say about them?
didn't have a great season, finished 10-13, 7-9 in the Big East, but once the Big East tournament started, they made a run.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, beating Villanova, Seton Hall, and I hate Creighton, and Creighton. This team is hot at the right time. I have them going to the Sweet 16.
You know what? I'll take it a step further. I think with the run that they're on now, I think they can get to the Elite Eight. Honestly. Because I think Patrick Ewing has finally got these guys believing. And so when you have a coach like that says, hey, forget all the noise outside, forget the conference we play in, because the Big East, honestly, even with some of the big name programs like Villanova and Creighton, it's not really the strong conference as it used to be, like when I was growing up. So I think if Patrick Ewing can really continue to coach and teach these kids, Georgetown could be very scary because they have nothing to lose. And whenever you get to March, when you have a team that has nothing to lose, they are the most dangerous.
That's true. I also love seeing Georgetown do well because I want to see more great NBA players getting into coaching. And if Patrick Ewing can get these guys to the Sweet 16 Elite Eight and show something in the tournament, maybe, who knows, maybe we'll see Paul Pierce at Kansas someday coaching.
Yes, that's a little bit of a stretch, but I do see your point though, because what we're seeing with Patrick Ewing, you're also seeing with Juwan Howard in Michigan. Like they play their alma maters, they go back to them, then they're coaching, and now they're starting to really develop. But to piggyback back on Patrick Ewing, as a matter of fact, it was this big fact that I found out after they had beaten Creighton for the title, that on that day, I think it was March, the date escapes me. It's on Saturday. Yeah, it was on Saturday. I forget what actual number, but on that date, it was 49 years exactly to that day, 49 years back, that the first Coach Thompson was hired at Georgetown. So for them to win the Big East title on the anniversary when they first hired Coach John Thompson, it was definitely very sentimental, especially for Patrick Ewing, because as we all know, he loved that man not just as a coach, but as a father, as a person. So I think that was very special, and it might just be the driving force for Georgetown going into this tournament.
That's true. Also, I want to make it clear, I was not comparing Patrick Ewing's career to Paul Pierce's. Paul Pierce is a rig. That's about the only way I think Paul Pierce has a leg up on Patrick Ewing. And I'm a Celtics fan, but Patrick Ewing was a better player, not staying there on the same level.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Someone's probably very mad somewhere that I just said Patrick Ewing and Paul Pierce the same breath.
Hey, you better Google Patrick Ewing and saw what a beast he was. Trust me, watching him as a kid, you knew who he was.
Oh, he was probably, I think he was 40 when he retired, 41?
Just around there.
And I was like 5 or 6 then. So I did not see really prime Patrick Ewing, but I do know he was a beast. I did think it was hysterical, but also so dumb that Madison Square Garden security stopped him. Like, hey, are you supposed to be here? What? You don't know who Patrick Ewing is?
It was mind-boggling when I first saw it. I'm like, for as long as he has played in this building, for as long as he's been associated with that franchise, the New York Knicks, and you're sitting here and telling me that you don't know who this guy is, and you're just gonna give him problems, like that is beyond explanation.
I blame James Dolan.
He needs to go.
Oh, I don't know why I blame him. He's involved somehow.
He is. It'd be blasphemous for anybody to even think otherwise. But that's a story for another day. But I still maintain that he needs to go.
Yeah, no, he's even with the Knicks on their semi-competent run they're on right now. They're still doing well. Like, yeah, no, don't let this season get James Dolan off the hook.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, as much as it pains me to say it, like Knicks fans, like you're having a great season for the first time in who knows how long since Melo was there, which was a good couple of years ago. Like, you cannot let Dolan get in the way of anything else, because if you do, you can watch their season just tailspin into the end. And I would hate to see it because it finally looks like that franchise is going in the right direction. So I just hope that the Knicks will finally be able to get some good footing on the ground because they got a pretty good nucleus right now. When you think of Mitchell Robinson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, if they can keep that core kind of together, I think you will see the Knicks make a few playoff appearances while Thibodeau is the coach, and as long as Dolan stays out of the way. We'll see, though.
Yeah, it's weird to think that Julius Randle's only 26, by the way.
I know. That threw me off. But hey, it's a good bargain for the Knicks right now.
I always do that though with NBA players. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy's been in the league for at least a decade. He's 24. But I always do that with Devin Booker.
Oh yeah.
I know he's young, but I always feel like he's been in the league way longer than he has.
If I'm not mistaken, like 6-7 years now. And yet he's only like 24, 25. Like it's crazy to think about because when you have a bunch of these players coming out of college and a lot of the one and done players, like these guys are only 18, 19 years old. So it's not like these guys are in their early to mid 20s when they finally get to the NBA.
He might have been 2015. Okay, he was. So he was drafted in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
But still, 6 years in the league as a starter and a good one at that.
Oh yeah,
24 years old.
It's crazy. And now looking at him at the Phoenix Suns at the top of near the top of the West right now, I think maybe now he's going to finally get the recognition he deserves. Of course, getting Chris Paul in the trade does help.
That was such a smart move by Phoenix to get Chris Paul.
Mm-hmm.
I do think they're a few years away from actually competing for anything. Once DeAndre Ayton kind of develops a little bit more. I mean, they're still 26-12, but I don't see them winning a title this year.
I don't either, but I tell you what, if people aren't careful, they could surprise some people. They really could.
I think they'll upset some people. Like, I think they could be a higher seed and still be the underdog, but they will get the upset. But getting Chris Paul kind of shows Devin Booker, hey, we will spend to put pieces around you, which I feel a lot of these small market teams don't get. They don't have to spend a ridiculous amount of money. You just get an aging veteran to show, hey, this guy can still play, and we'll put some pieces around you to help you succeed.
Yes, and that's exactly what Chris Paul did last year for OKC, because we all knew that was a young, really up-and-coming team that really had no chance to make the playoffs. But as soon as he got there, he changed their mindset to say, hey, you're better than you think. Let's play. Let's get better throughout the season. And they nearly took out Houston last year in the playoffs. So this is not an accident.
I want Chris Paul to kind of have a second career and play another 7 years, just bouncing around the league and turning around franchises.
To me, it's going to be tough because Chris Paul, I think right now he's at least 36. Will probably be 37 pretty soon. And when you have a lot of mileage on you, not everybody's LeBron James now. Let's be clear.
Oh, so, I don't think he'll play well in year 7. I just think the leadership presence, and also I want to see a 43-year-old NBA player. I think it'd be hysterical.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? But it's all going to depend on what Phoenix decides to do after the season, because I think they only got him for at least 1 year, maybe 2.
Don't crush my dreams of seeing Chris Paul play until he's in a wheelchair.
Hey, like I said, I would want to see Chris Paul to continue to play because he's still effective. I still think he's probably the best floor general in the game right now.
Watch, he's probably going to sign with the Lakers next time he's a free agent to play with LeBron.
Nah, he don't need all that. I think Chris Paul is comfortable where he is right now.
Which is weird to say about Phoenix. No offense to the city of Phoenix, but being comfortable while there, I don't care that it's a dry heat. I will never live in a place where it's regularly over 100.
Well, I will give this to Phoenix. I think they're finally starting to find their footing because it's not just Chris Paul, it's not just DeAndre Ayton, it's not just Devin Booker. They got a couple of three and D players, very long, athletic wing guys who I think people really need to start paying attention to. Michael Bridges out of Villanova, Cameron Johnson out of North Carolina. These guys, like they fit the mold of today's NBA, and I think that's really going to help the Suns going forward.
That's true. I love 3-and-D players. I want teams just to build every single starter 3-and-D. Don't care if you can do anything else.
Right, and then another breaking news that just came by. Phoenix actually just traded for Torrey Craig, a former Denver Nugget. So now he's in Phoenix now after a trade with Milwaukee. So Phoenix is really, I think that trade really signals to me that they really want to go for this right now. They want to challenge the Clippers. They want to challenge the Jazz and the Lakers. That move signals to me that they want to challenge everybody.
Even with the Chris Paul trade, everyone knew that was a big trade. But is Phoenix the most surprising team so far this season?
I would say yes, to a certain extent, because we all saw their bubble run this past year. They go 8-0, and were literally just like either a half game or a game out of the playoffs. They just barely missed. And I said after the season ended, I said the one team to look out for is Phoenix. I think they will use that bubble run to say that it was not just a fluke. And then they made the Chris Paul trade. It was like, okay, Phoenix is really serious about getting better because they're trying to make the playoffs for the first time since 2010.
Which is wild to me that it's been that long. But I mean, the West is it still bothers me how weak the East is compared to the West.
It's no different than in past years, honestly.
Yeah, it's better than it was at one point, but still, it's so bad how much better the top teams in the West are. Like the 6th seed in the West, or the Trailblazers 23-16, they would be a 4 in the East.
Oh yeah. I mean, but you have to look at it this way. It's all about parity. It's all about how are you structuring your team as well. So, for example, look at Portland. You got Dame Lillard, you got CJ McCollum basically as your backcourt, and then you got a pretty solid front line. Though I think Portland could still use an adjustment here or there because I don't think the combination of Nurkic and Kanter is really going to get you over the top, especially with the behemoths that they might see as far as Joker or even Rudy Gobert for Utah. I think those two guys might give Portland problems. But and then you look at the East, you really don't. The top 3 teams, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and Philly, they all have great big men. So really, that really depends on how are you going to structure your team to not only stay competitive, but how are you going to not say shut down, but at least try to make it harder for those big guys in the East. So that's a couple of ways you can look at it.
That's fair. I don't know. I feel like the way the Blazers are, they need 2 really good defensive big men. And Nurkic is a good defender. I'm not knocking him. Enes Kanter could work on his defense, if we're being nice about it.
Very, very nice.
And I mean, you're not beating any of the teams ahead of you if Enes Kanter is your number 2 big man.
No, not at all. Can't happen. I would not be surprised if Portland makes a deal at the trade deadline because I honestly think they need to make one because their front line is just not going to cut it.
Yeah. Who do you think they would target though? That would.
I mean, I look at JaVale McGee. I think Cleveland still made him available. That would be a name that would probably look out for him. Or Andre Drummond as well, as I know his name has been flown around in trade talks as well. So those are probably 2 names I would probably keep an eye on.
Please, someone get Drummond so Brooklyn doesn't.
Yeah, I agree because Brooklyn's already loading up on everybody, especially after they got Blake Griffin. So I think somebody will at least take a flyer out on Drummond, at least.
Cleveland, though, another early surprising team. They're not doing great anymore, but they're beating the Celtics. What teams are you surprised are as bad as they are? We're going to go on the more negative view of surprising teams.
Okay. It would definitely have, I think Boston for starters, not to put you on the spot, but I think Boston, I thought they would have been a lot farther on than they are this year. Because you figure after the run they made last year and losing to Miami in the East Finals, you think that they run it back, they have most of their pieces intact, ready to go. But there's just something off about this team, and I cannot place my finger on it. It's either is Kemba Walker the same player that he is? Is Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, are those two going to be able to coexist, even though it looks fine now, but is something going to go on toward the end? And do the Celtics even have a true center that they can really depend on? I mean, I get it. They have Tristan Thompson and they got that kid Weiss as well, but I just really think that Boston, they're not where they need to be. And especially when you got to deal with Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, and Giannis, your front line needs to be on it to go up against those guys. If they're not, you're going to be sitting at home a lot earlier than you think.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're the surprisingly bad team. It's partially Kemba's never going to be the same after that knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need to get another point guard option in, but I don't want to get rid of Kemba because I don't want the Celtics' reputation to become, oh, they'll use up a point guard, and then when they're injured, immediately get rid of them. They did that with Isaiah Thomas, and I don't want free agents to go, I'm not signing there. It's the center thing's an issue. Daniel Tice is a very good center. He fits this team well. He's a decent passer, can kind of shoot the three, but Robert Williams in a couple of years could be one of the better defensive centers in the league. Right now, I think he's not quite there yet. This year does not matter. They're not winning a championship. So hold on to Williams. And Jason Tatum is a streakier player than people realize, I think.
Yes.
He gets a lot of praise on social media. Rightfully so sometimes. He is a good player, but there will be games where he's shooting like 3 for 15.
Abysmal.
And 1 for 9 from 3 or something, and it's infuriating.
And see, that's the problem I have with him and Brown is the fact that they settle for those threes at an alarming rate. Like, you're both 6'7", 6'8", and freakishly athletic. You should either be going to the basket or using a post-up game a lot more than what you are instead of selling for that three.
The Celtics also, I think, rely on Marcus Smart more than they should with all the talent they have.
Mm-hmm.
I love Marcus Smart. He's a very good defender. He's a good facilitator, not a great shooter. I really don't want him shooting ever. So when he was out, the team was completely different. They weren't as energetic. They were not as good defensively. But it's bad, and there needs to be a change. And I'm not saying anyone should be traded who's a starter or anyone should be fired, but they need to do something. Maybe they should go out and get Andre Drummond.
Who knows? But I know this. I know Danny Ainge is not going to be the first one to really stand still. I have to think that he has at least 2, maybe 3 trades in mind that he's at least plotting or thinking about. So do not sleep on Danny Ainge.
I feel like every season around the deadline, it's like, oh, trader Danny, he's going to make a move. And then he doesn't do anything. And it's just more and more disappointing every year.
So that's fair. But I think if Boston really wants to contend for a title, because the East is getting more top heavy, and even though Brown and Tatum are young, you're not going to get too many chances, so you better make them count.
That's true. I just hope we're not doing the whole let's wait till LeBron retires thing. That
you gonna be waiting for a minute.
Speaking of players playing until they're 43 or older, LeBron's probably going to play till he's 50.
You know what? I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, because heck, Tom Brady trying to play until he's 45. But even though football and basketball are 2 completely different sports, so we're not going to go there.
Yeah, that's fair. Maybe not 50, but like mid 40s.
I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, the man keeps himself in shape, and it's not like he puts any junk in his body. So yeah, if he avoids a catastrophic injury, I can see him playing him up until 30, 43, 44, maybe 45.
How old's Bronny?
36.
No, Bronny, his son.
Oh, his son.
LeBron James.
Yeah, his son I think is 18, I want to say. 17, 18.
16. Close. So I think he's at least going to play another 3 years, line up his next contract so he's a free agent once Bronny gets in the league, and then just sign wherever he gets drafted to.
That'd be very interesting to think about.
I hope Minnesota drafts him. They need a win.
That would be the ultimate karma story right there. Bronny gets drafted by Minnesota. His father signs there. Next thing you know, Minnesota's at the top of the West.
It'd be beautiful. And I know some Timberwolves fans. They need a win like that. They need something.
I mean, let's face it. They have not been any good since Kevin Garnett was traded. Nothing good has happened for that franchise since. They made one playoff appearance and they only lasted 5 games. So Minnesota needs something. Because like I said a couple shows ago, that if things really didn't change all that much for this franchise, do not be surprised if they are the franchise that's going to be selected to go back to Seattle.
I'd feel bad for people in Minnesota, but also Seattle deserves a team.
Yes, I've been saying that for the longest.
Although, because Seattle hasn't had a team for so long, do we really want to punish them by giving them the Timberwolves?
Well, here's my thing on that. Because when we first got the news that OKC was going to be the new team, they weren't good the first 2, maybe 3 years. But then when they got Durant, they got Westbrook. How quickly that turned around. And then they made the finals in only their third, fourth season. So things can turn, but it's all about the fortunes you have. You have to draft well. You have to develop well. So if you can do those things, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
I think also Glenn Taylor is the owner. That team will do much better.
I agree.
James Dolan gets all this hate, deservedly, but Glenn Taylor deserves just as much, if not more.
I agree. I think if he's not careful, he's going to drag them down further into the abyss if he hasn't already.
People are going to storm Timberwolves arena and riot in there until he sells. And he almost sold the team to a group led by KG. And then once they kind of came to an agreement, he said, actually, I want more money. And now KG's like, fuck you, I'm done. I don't know if we can swear on this.
I mean, that whole situation, I felt so bad because I think KG would have been a pretty good owner and probably the kickstart that franchise needed. And now they're not going to get it. They're probably going to be stuck in mediocrity for the next 10, 15, 20 years, if not longer.
True. I feel bad for Minnesota for giving up Kevin Garnett for pennies on the dollar. I really do. But also I love Kevin McHale for giving his buddy Danny that deal.
Oh, yeah. People forget about that deal.
There weren't completely terrible players in it, but it was not equal value.
Most trades aren't. I mean, it depends on who you're trading with.
That's true. I mean, KG got a ring out of it, so I think Minnesota fans are happy with that at least.
Yeah, because they finally have something of decent value that they really haven't gotten really since they became a franchise back in the late 80s.
You know, actually, I'm going to blame the Lakers for Minnesota's misfortunes because if they stayed in Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves wouldn't exist. So it's the Lakers' fault.
True, but the Lakers are still respectable around the league, so that's a little bit different.
So Minnesota would have a respectable team if the Lakers stayed.
Maybe.
No, they wouldn't.
True, but plus, I don't really look at Minnesota as a basketball town. I think mostly it's football because of the Vikings. So that's really your first mistake there.
Yeah, for professional sports, it's football. For like youth sports and college, it's hockey.
Oh yeah,
no one is ever going to look at Minnesota and go, oh yeah, they have a good basketball school or a good basketball team and program.
That is very true.
Anything else you want to cover? I mean, we didn't really plan beforehand. I had no idea what was going on.
Well, I did want to touch on just one subject. So it's really pertaining to how the playoff stretch is going to go the rest of the way. I think it's going to be really interesting to see how all these teams are really going to focus on the home stretch while still focusing on COVID as well. Because I read an article earlier about my home team, the Denver Nuggets, how they're all facing COVID fatigue because of all the protocols that hadn't been reset and redone. And it just gets to a point where you're not just fighting physical fatigue playing most of these games, but also you have to fight mental and emotional fatigue. So I wonder how that's going to affect the season going down the stretch and as we get to the playoffs in May and June.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people kind of didn't realize how much of an emotional effect the bubble had on there. And if the league decides to go back to that format, I wouldn't be surprised if a couple big name players not try to throw it so they don't make the playoffs, but numbers start to dip because that will be on their mind of being in Orlando away from their friends and family for a month and a half, 2 months.
And I do agree on that point. But I think if the NBA, if for whatever reason, if they have to go back to that, I think what they need to do is allow their friends and family to go to wherever the bubble may be at the start of the playoffs, not when you get farther round and round. Let them go there. Only specific people like you did last time. And I think there might be a different effect this time around if it gets to that point.
I do think that is what they'll do it because the NBA is the best run league. I think Adam Silver is the best commissioner out of all the major sports. So I think they learned last year was kind of we need to figure this out as we go. Nothing like this has happened. So I think whatever protocols were like the last game of the finals, that will be the protocol for the first game of the playoffs.
I agree. And I think that's what they need to stick to.
But who knows what teams are starting to let fans back in the stadiums. They're just going to let them play probably.
They need to. And Denver needs to uplift their sanctions here because I've been itching to see a game since last year.
Sure. I think Boston said 12% is allowed. I know at Fenway it's 12. I think Bruins, they're allowing some. So the Celtics probably are too. But no, hopefully everyone gets vaccinated soon and we don't have to worry about this ever again. So that's it for Midweek Midrange this week. I have no idea who's coming on next week.
I think slowly but surely they should be allowing more people, but it's also bad.
True. But I think that's it for this week, unless Jamaal, you have anything else?
Let's hope. That's the only thing we can hope for.
I think there is delay on this. It might be my internet. My internet's very bad. I'm not sure. There might be a delay. Might be my internet.
Who knows?
Okay. Well, that's it this week. It's a little shorter than usual, unless Jamaal, I know you said that was kind of the one thing you want to talk about. Is there anything else?
No, that's it on my end.
All right. I mean, I don't really have anything else. Jamaal, thank you for coming on. I know, like I've said multiple times, this was a mess figuring it out.
but hey, just work with what you got.
True. Thank you for stopping in. I probably won't be back next week. Parker's probably going to watch the replay of this and be like, yeah, Kevin's never coming back on. But we'll be on as the season goes on. Parker will be on next week, I think. I look at the schedule. But thanks for stopping in. Have a good night.
All right. Let's do it again sometime.